I would like to welcome everyone to the 46th episode of Money Trees. I've been giving a lot of thought to this whole Web 2 versus Web 3 conversation and whether it's helpful or harmful to even make the distinction, especially when it comes to art. Regardless of your stance, it's clear that Web 3 is ushering in a new generation of creatives, one where digital literacy, ownership, and platform independence are essential elements of their worlds. Today, we are joined by an artist that is finding new ways to express herself and share her story across mediums. Along with her burgeoning artist career, she is making space through a record label that empowers young girls, women, trans, and/or non-binary folk. I am honored to have Wim here with us today. How are you feeling?
Hello, hello. I am feeling really nice. It's decided to be all here in Los Angeles, so we're rolling with that today.
I kind of miss LA weather. I can't front. I've been down in Florida for a minute and it's nice. It gets a little hot, but that dry heat and LA's just nice, man. I'm a little jelly hearing that. So fall is what for you though? Because I remember the first time I pulled up to California and people were wearing coats when it was like 60 degrees and I was very confused.
Listen, it's kind of windy and chilly. Last week it was like 98 degrees where I live because I'm sort of a little bit east. So um it's like 60 today, which feels pretty nice and fall-esque, but you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I used to live in Florida. I kind of miss the humidity, I'm not gonna lie.
See, nah, I like the dry heat. I don't want to sweat. But enough about me, because I will go on a tangent about the comparisons there. Um, have you? So you said used to live in Florida. Now you're out in LA. How long have you been in LA?
I've actually only been in LA for, well, just a little under 3 years. I moved here 6 months before we had to start quarantining. So I kind of got a quick start and then had to go in and sort of hibernate and be a totally different, show up to my craft a little bit differently, just alone in my apartment. But, that's the story we all sort of now hold as musicians that have lived through this time. But yeah, not long.
That's kind of crazy. I moved back to LA right around that same time. I think I was only there. I went back in September of 2019, and then yeah, the pandemic hit just about 6, 7 months later, and then I had to leave. I feel like LA was the one place where it'd be really tough being inside. I was like, okay, I can be inside in New York. I don't mind not going out. But what was that like? So you just got to this new city, and 6 months in, you're now inside a lot. What did that do for your creativity?
I think it just kind of forced me to, I don't know, sort of pay more attention to myself. I think when you get to LA, you can get really hung up in this like sort of networking scene. And I think especially before the pandemic, like a lot of people were sort of, operating on this. There was like this status quo of just always being out, always being around people, always talking and going to everyone's shows and sort of losing a little bit of track of yourself and what your goals are and what you're trying to do. And I feel like, when I got here for the first 6 months, all I was doing was being out at concerts and it was amazing. I met so many great people. But then I think in some ways, the blessing of quarantine was that it was like, okay, now it's time to go inside and work on your record because, I want to be on those stages too. I want to be, one of those people that folks are trying to come up to and chat with and learn more about their career because they recognize them in the space. Whereas when I arrived in LA, obviously I was more of the audience member than the creative because I hadn't had a long creative career at that point. I was just kind of starting out, so it gave me time to hide and actually create the art that now I'm going to be performing. I'm going to be on those stages for the first time coming up at the end of this month. So it's kind of crazy.
I definitely want to touch on the show with El Cid and what you were putting together there. Before we jump to that, I love a good name story. And just as we're kind of talking about your origins, the trifecta that led to the creation of your artist name to me is really dope. And spoiler alert, I read the mirror already, so this is more for the people. But I would love to kick this episode off with you telling the story in your own words about why your name, your artist name, is what it is.
Right. Well, I'm obsessed with words. I do enjoy writing a lot, and I like coming up with a good title for anything, as Cam can attest to. Cam told me he's not able to use emojis right now, but I'm sure Cam is throwing up hearts from afar. He's on his laptop. Um, but so the name, I just started coming up with things that were meaningful to me and things that were sort of in the song, whether it was actual lyrics that were, you know, are present, or if it's something that I'm kind of hearing that the songs are inspired by. And so whim is actually a combination of three words. Whim, so WHIM. So a lot of times in life, I think we do things on a whim. We just sort of catch this inspiration. We're like, well, let me see what's down that path. And for me, that was music. I had a long career um, doing, you know, academics. I was really, really into school and I just wanted to keep learning. And so I kept applying for more programs. And when I was in high school, I decided that I really wanted to get a PhD. I think I struggled a lot. I had a lot of passions and interests in like the science fields. Um, but anyways, before I go all down that path, whim was just the fact that I kind of started making music on a whim. I was like, you know what? What if I open up my laptop and see what's going on with this garage band thing? And what if I buy an electric guitar and sort of start playing horribly on it and see where that takes me? So I think music was something I just sort of picked up on a whim, but now I recognize it more as like a universal nudge. And then him is also in there. There's a lot of, I was raised Catholic in the South, and religion was very important, to my upbringing. Even though my family wasn't the kind of family that would go to church, regularly, I always went to Catholic school. High school, I was in an all girls Catholic school. Um, and not to be totally cliche, but then, I also was a queer person, but didn't quite realize it at the time. Um, or at least didn't have enough examples to realize at the time that you could actually, have a gay relationship. I didn't have anything. I don't think I really saw any gay people until I was much older. But so him, HYMN. A lot of the songs have these religious undertones that I don't even quite realize I'm putting into songs as I'm writing them. So the hymns of my youth became very important and are sort of linger and echo in all of the songs. And then, of course, women. A lot of these songs explore my relationships with the women in my life, especially, family and a lot of the relationships that I've had with women growing up. So I just combined those three words and came up with whim. And so far it works. Sometimes people think it's like a fun, hip way of saying women. And I'm like, yes, I totally get that. But I'm like, it's actually whim. So I'm excited. Thank you for asking that question. I appreciate that.
Yeah, when I read your explanation, it's even more beautiful hearing it orally, but it really connected with me because it was funny because I kind of looked and saw all of those words in the name when I first looked at it, and just hearing like how each of those elements played into your life. It's a name that's very representative of your art and what it is, or the story that you're telling. So to me, I think that that's just the illest origins. Again, I love that. I love the process. I love kind of seeing the behind the scenes. Like, how did you get to this point? Like, where did you come up with this name that can be interpreted, 10 different ways by 10 different people and will mean something different to each of them? And so that's really ill. You touched on, and it's interesting hearing that, like being in a Catholic environment and not really seeing anyone that you currently, I guess, say would relate to, or had a similar identity to you. And one of the things that I personally love about Web3 is the ability to tell your stories in very unique ways as artists. Where I say now, artists aren't really limited to like, oh, if I put a song out, I just have to pitch it for playlisting and explain like where my radio looks are going to come from and why it needs to be on streaming. You kind of have this marketing sandbox that can help you get your art, your content, your message out to people that relate to you. And you can think about doing that in tons of different ways. What made you start paying attention to Web3?
I mean, honestly, it was just like I've always been really, really inspired um, by Latasha. So Latasha and I met forever ago. Before Latasha was even doing Web3, we met because Latasha got a sync contract and we were both at the Women's Center for Creative Work at this like sync thing. And we met there, and this person who runs a sync company was like, you two should make music together. It didn't end up happening because very quickly, you know, the pandemic started going off and it just wasn't going to work out. And so we ended up meeting for cocktails for the first time in like 2 years post pandemic. And Latasha had started doing a lot of stuff in Web3 and was, working as, the head of community management over at Zora, and was telling me, this is amazing. You should check it out. And so eventually I was like, you know what? I should look into that thing that Latasha was talking about because, Latasha's always been a really inspiring artist to me. So I did, and I was like, well, this is interesting, but maybe I'm not ready for this. So another month went by, and I think the universe was like, Blair, if you don't do this. So I started getting involved. I went to Zoratopia. I started just kind of getting on Twitter and being like, what's the deal with this? And it's crazy because we're all like sort of early adopters, and coming from a Web2 world, like people aren't exactly going to drop everything to like preach to you, anything about Web2. It's just like, oh, this is the music industry. But with Web3, I think everybody's so excited about it that it was really easy for people to just reach out and be, you know, want to share the good news of Web3 with me. So I think it's just like sort of from people just chatting to me about it, me getting interested enough to learn, and then other people reaching out and wanting to, give a little crumb of knowledge to continue to lead me down the path. Um, that sort of got me involved.
Yo, shout out to Latasha. Um, did a little bit of my homeworks and know that that was actually your first NFT purchase. And it's interesting because it was a photograph, and I think about that's kind of ill because everyone knows her for the community work at Zora and Zoratopia, and definitely the amazing, amazing records and visuals. But the lesser seen side is just the breadth of her artistry. And so knowing that y'all kind of have that history and you getting into this space directly through one of her, her photography art is pretty ill. I think that when I first reached out to you, we share a lot of mutuals, and I was saying that I had checked out your work. One of the things that I love is your approach to community, where I just think there's a lot of great things that go on in Web3, and a lot of people that are willing to, share the gospel, for lack of a better term. But a lot of it can feel like buzzwords. A lot of it can feel like, they're just throwing things out for the sake of throwing them out. And you were an active participant in nurturing and developing community. And well, there's not even really a question there. I just kind of wanted to like shout you out for that because I think that that's something that when done properly, it really uplifts, and it's a great thing to see from the outside, but for the people that you're directly interacting with, it becomes even more amazing. Especially, shout out lit NFTs. I can't talk about the community enough, but it's just been my favorite display of artist in Web3. So again, no real question there, but shout out to you for that.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. To be honest, it's in a way like I just really like making friends and learning about new people. So it's kind of easy. I'm a Sagittarius. I don't know. I love making new friends. So like this be walking into a room or a space where it's like a bunch of people are down to talk to you and want to learn about your work and like want to just shoot the shit for lack of a better term and just talk like it's an AOL chat room. It feels like I'm a kid again in some ways because I used to be on the internet, unfortunately, in like AOL chat rooms and like on AOL Instant Messenger, just like talking to strangers. I used to talk to strangers all the time on MySpace. Like, I really feel like I'm oddly reliving my youth via Twitter, but the cool part is like now I'm not a little like 13-year-old kid. I'm like a 32-year-old woman. I can meet up with people in real life and be like, okay, this is safe and chill.
Oh man, the AIM throwback days. I remember the dial up and like having to close my room door so my grandmother wouldn't hear me about to hog the internet and I had the phone off the hook so that way I wouldn't get disconnected. Oh, wow, AIM. AIM was a simpler time. Um, Speaking on platforms, if Twitter is the talk box and Instagram is the look box, what platform is going to be the sound box of Web3?
Oh, wow. Which one's gonna be the sound box? I don't, it's so, my hope is that there doesn't end up being one. I kind of still love how everything's sort of, it's still this buffet of different things that you can try out and different places where you can go and maybe even listen to the same exact song, but you're resonating with the project in a different way, or maybe it does something very special in particular that you think is cool. And so, I kind of hope it stays that way. I hope that one single platform doesn't kind of rise to prominence. But I do think there are lots of really cool, almost like derivative projects being made that sort of, so like Spin Amp. Have you checked out Spin Amp?
So that was literally my follow up there. I checked out Spinamp because of you, and I was just thinking about like I struggle with Web3 music discovery outside of like platforms, and then even when I'm on there, it's just not a very easy process for me. Like most of the time, I end up coming across an artist or coming across an NFT, and then I'll see that it's a part of a playlist on DSPs, and then I end up adding that playlist to my to like my saved list to go back to. But the discovery piece just hasn't really come through for me yet. And so yeah, you putting me on the Spinamp and just seeing that, it got me thinking like, okay, there are some people working on this concept, and just wanted to hear like what your take was on it. But yeah, please talk more about Spinamp.
Well, so this is the thing. Like, as I started answering that question, I was like, okay, maybe it's not about the platforms that people are dropping on, but maybe it's about a place where all the Web3 music is being aggregated, and then you can use that as almost like a way to listen to it. And I don't know much about Spinamp or its developers or founders or anything along that line. I just think I like the way it looks. It reminds me of like old Nintendo or something. And it'll be really cool when it expands from, right now it's just sound and catalog artists, which is cool. It's like they're testing, they're in beta. It'll be cool when it expands out to mint songs and other um maybe artists that are selling. Does Tez do sound? Do you know like
Yeah,
the music?
there. Yes, we had Jay Burn who's doing a bunch of dope stuff
Yes.
over on Tezos.
Yeah, so it'll be really cool when Tezos and like Mint songs and other things are on there as well, because I definitely don't want to see it limited to these sort of higher ETH, like more curated platforms that maybe are really recognized at the moment, but there are so many dope artists that haven't quite, made it through that curation filter yet because maybe teams are small or whatever, but it'd be great to see them included on those apps too. But yeah, I think Spinamp's really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to see just curation make its way into the space in a way that doesn't hinder artist discovery, but also improves like the actual fan experience. Where artists shouldn't feel like, oh, I have to be accepted onto this platform to have a chance to survive, but also just as a fan, I don't want to say waste time, but you just have the opportunity to connect with more records and genres and people that resonate with you. Like you highlighted that your latest drop, Catching Flies, is one of the first alt rock NFTs to be in the music space. And I think that that's really ill. And if there was a way to kind of, if you're a fan of alt rock and you wanted to hear that, it needs to be a bit more accessible. And I
Mhm.
would actually love to talk about how that song came about if you could, share that with the world.
Yes, definitely. And I will say that I believe I'm one of the first, but I know Black Dave. I've talked to Black Dave. I was like, he released Wolf, I think on Mint Songs. So we were kind of together, came in with the alt rock. He's got like some dope early 2000s, like almost hardcore vibes happening. Um, and then I'm bringing in this sort of hazy alt rocky vibe. So yeah,
I
how
wish
did this
Twitter
song
would
happen?
give me back the 100 emojis because I had a bunch of those there, but the hearts will do. Yes, talk about how the song happened.
The song. So Catching Flies was actually the last song I wrote for this EP. I was sitting in my home studio, very humble home studio, and just fumbling around on the guitar. And I recorded that in, right, the little guitar melody, and then I started singing over it. And I was like so lovely and Western and kind of like, but unlike anything else on my EP. And I was like, this is kind of a vibe. And everyone I shared it with was like, this is a serious vibe. I was like, okay, okay. So there's something here. And I actually sent it to the guitarist I was working with on the record, who is also, very happy to say my partner. And they were like, wow, this is really a vibe right now. I'd like to see if you like what would happen if you took this further. And I was like, oh, okay, okay. So I kind of just sat with it. I had been writing the lyrics sort of just spontaneously. Like I just sort of put a mic in front of my face and start singing and see what comes out. And it's usually very representative of where I'm at in my life, or maybe something that's bothering me and I know it, or bothering me and I don't know it. And I I had, sort of an impactful moment with someone in my life where, a really frustrating moment where I felt like I was being blamed for something that actually had very little to do with me. And the second component of that song came out, the really heavy section. Um, I started writing that, and then I had a full song. I had two sections that really resonated and, sort of pushed an entire narrative. And so I sent the song and my stems out to the guitarist and Linda Boom Vision, who's actually in the room, Boom Vision. And um, I sent them to Boom and I was like, let's go. And I was very lucky because Boom sent me back just so many guitars and created an entire soundscape out of, these like the main portion of the song that I had created. And then we recorded three different drummers. Um, I recorded once in Memphis, Tennessee, where I'm from, and I didn't like that. And then I recorded once here in Los Angeles and wasn't quite there yet. And then I went to London and recorded drums in Boom Studio with this amazing drummer, Marco Briatore. And it came together.
Yo, okay. There is so much to jump into there. I The record was finished in London, and that's ill. But then you mentioned you're from Memphis, and now I'm thinking Memphis, Florida, L.A., London. You were at South by
Yes.
traveling. First of all, I think that music is a collaborative process, and it's really ill kind of seeing the iterations and hearing about the process that it took from start to finish for this record to become the final vibe that is now available on catalog for anyone that's listening. um, with travel, okay, so I don't want to jump too far off the record, but I think you did a wonderful job explaining how it came through. We played it at the top of this episode. I loved it. Hearing even just the attention to detail, where I think that locations can change the energy of a recording, depending on when you're recording at a home studio versus a professional studio versus a different city, and just that mood. Like all of that affects the final outcome of the record. So, what's your favorite place to record it, or favorite location?
I have no idea because honestly, every single time was so, so fun. Because like as a producer, you're just like looking for the moment where the artist says yes. And being the producer and the artist, I'm like just waiting for myself to be like, yes, this is it. And I had those moments in every single place where it just felt like because there's 6 songs on the EP. And on some of them the Memphis drumming session is present. And in other ones, the sort of main through line for all of these songs is me and my partner Linda, who became such a huge part of the entire record. Um, and so that's sort of the through line, but then everything else is sort of influenced by all these different artists that I'm working with and throughout the album. But let's see. Okay. I will say that Memphis was like the craziest recording session because I was there with 2 people that I've known since I was 15 years old. Like I was doing music, going to shows, being involved in the music scene in Memphis, Tennessee from the time I was 13 years old. And for me, it was mostly like I grew up listening to a ton of Stax musicians and Motown and I had a ton of exposure to really, really amazing soul and blues music. But then when I got into high school, I started going to a ton of metal and screamo shows. And so I was doing a lot of that. And this is when I was meeting these people that eventually would be working on my record. So Matt Qualls, who mixed the record, and Sean Zorn, who did some of the drums. I mean, Sean Zorn and me had known each other since I was so, so young and shouldn't have been at parties, like having beers with everyone and like at shows, like these crazy shows where everybody was like so much older than me. But that was really, really fun. And then, Los Angeles was fun because, it's just me hanging out with my new friends or like just kind of I recorded all the bass in my home studio. All the vocals were tracked by myself at this like collective studio called The Rattle. And then when I was in London, it was just really cool being in the studio with my partner who was engineering the session and Marco, who's actually, a very close friend of theirs. And now I'm happy to say a friend of mine who just has this beautiful way of drumming. The beginning of the songs, I know I'm going on and on because I'm just obsessed with production, but
Please
like
continue. It's great.
the drums, actually the entry to Catching Flies is so particular. Like we were trying all these different ways that Marco, who like if you ever need to work with a drummer and you want someone who has like tons of delicacy and finesse, Marco's the one to work with. And Marco was like trying out sticks and then trying out throwing a towel over the thing. And then we just realized that the best way to lead into the song was for him to literally be using his hands to play the first section. Almost like he's working on like a sort of hand drumming on why can't I think of the name? Like I want to say cajon, but that's not the one, but a similar movement. And we tried it other ways, and it was just like it had to be hands. So it was just kind of yeah, that was a really fun experience too, just seeing a drummer be like a mad scientist.
It's really ill hearing the excitement and just like the passion in your voice talking about the creative process. I think that, I've said it numerous times on here, but for me personally, working with artists, that's always my favorite part. I love the actual final product, but all of the intricacies and random, unexpected moments that lead to it, it's the most exciting part for me. It's the part that I personally love, love, love with, all of my heart. So that was ill. I'm going to listen to the record again when we get off of this, and I'll have a completely different experience having heard how it came about and thinking about the way that you all thought about putting it together. So shout out to you and the team. That is ill. And yeah. Again, not even a question there. Just kind of enjoying and sitting with that story. Thinking about what you mentioned, this is the last song you recorded for the EP. Is there a publicly shareable date for when the rest of the records will be coming out?
I have no idea. Okay, so a little alpha. Let me use the jargon of our space. I've got some alpha. So the next song, I'm working on something very special with Cam. Um, I'm kind of releasing almost like as something lines up or I can line something up cool, then I release something for that. I mean, I I'm fully giving into the freedom that the space allows, so I'm not really thinking too much about making sure that my drops are, 1 month apart or that, we're doing anything necessarily by the book. I'm not going to say that I'm completely free from those concerns because I do think about it in some ways, well, in a lot of ways, I do want my Web2 career to also grow because I want people to, have an opportunity to hear it, even if they aren't an early adopter into, the Web3 world. I don't necessarily think there has to be a choice, but there are distinctions. But I kind of am just waiting as the opportunities come up. And so me and Cam were just Cam's been talking a lot to Lit NFTs about manifold contracts and so I got just kind of messaged Cam and I was like, well, what if and started coming up with an idea for like a sort of more special way that we could use manifold and we were just kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. So I actually just got Cam, I just got a reply back in my DMs from the manifold developers. So we're going to be working on a drop for my next song, which is called I Can't Fix It. It's the first song that I got back from Mix and was just like, oh my God. I started crying when I got it back from Mix because it's exactly how I wanted it to sound. My friend Matt Qualls, if you want like a sort of psychedelic, crazy, like dirty but still polished mix, he is the one and just like such a lovely human and always helps me when I have an engineering issue and just like very uplifting and very much like all about uplifting women as engineers, which is really, really cool. What am I talking about? That will be the next song. I don't know when the EP will be out in full, but I think it'll be sometime like as we drop things into the world, mm, late May, early June, maybe. But I'm just kind of riding the wave. I'm catching a wave, as some would say.
Yeah, nah,
Cam.
no. The wave is coming. Shout out to Future Surf,
I
and
know. I
and
love the song.
Manifold, and like I'm very sticking with our whole jargon of the space. Very bullish on Manifold and them providing creatives with the tools needed to really play around with the potentials the blockchain provides, and also just to like kind of geek out for a little bit. I spent months on YouTube learning how to engineer. And I would say like I'm a decent engineer, like ill recording engineer just cuz I can help with takes and like tracking. Not that that's very hard, but it's still like one of those things that once you get it and you can do it fast, it really makes the sessions great for artists. But mixing is not my forte. And there are times when we'll work with ill mix engineers and it still takes 10 mixes to get it right between us and the artist. And there's times when you send those stems through and you get that V1 back and it's perfect. And it's like the sweetest, just the listen where everyone's like, oh, notes, no notes, everyone's good. So I love that for you that you got to have that experience when those V1s are perfect.
Mm. It's the sweet stuff of life.
Speaking on more future, no pun intended, future surf,
Mhm.
but we were talking about a show that you're putting together in LA for April 28th. Can
Yes.
we get some more alpha on what is happening there?
What is happening is that I have bit off more than I can chew. That's what's happening. I I you know, my friend had this space at El Cid for the evenings and was like, Blair, do you want to put on a show? I was like, well, I'm kind of starting to release, so maybe I could put on almost like a release show for me. And yeah, so that's kind of what's happening, but I'm still in the process of figuring out the lineup, and it's a late show, and also trying to practice for my first set ever. So, which means getting way better at guitar very quickly. But yeah, I don't have a ton of alpha. I've tried some different ideas about what I think is what I want to happen, but I know it's going to be maybe a sort of fun acoustic set or bringing in maybe like an artist who sings to tracks to sort of just start us out and get us rolling, something like a little fun and energy. And then my plan is to then make it all feel really intense for about 30 minutes and then after that having a DJ. So it'll be a really fun night. I'm trying to keep it low key so I don't overwhelm myself, but I've also been chatting with some other artists here in LA about putting on a show. So I sort of, you know, I was at a show at this local collective that I'm part of, the Rattle, this weekend, and there was a band playing. It sounded pretty good, and people were just sort of dancing like on the stage basically. And I was like, this is really fun. And I walked straight up to TK and I was like, TK, should we throw a show here? And TK was like, yes. And I was like, all right, bye. And walked back over to where I was dancing. So that may be coming. I want to do something that showcases Web3 artists because I think it's a great way to like onboard people into the space and get people interested, and also have other artists be like, oh, this is like a real living, breathing thing.
Yeah, event planning is a bitch. So like that, I was impressed when I saw that, and now even hearing about like how involved you are with actually putting the show together, on top of being the featured act. Not that you need the luck, but I'm wishing you good luck. I'm sure that it will come out amazing. Now you will have some really ill support. I've been seeing some of the people talking about popping out, and excited to see. Hopefully you got a videographer there to see some of the visuals. Maybe we got a Zora documentary. Well, not Zora, but a documentary that will be released on Zora. I love when people drop on Zora, by the way. Catalog is, use the Zora protocol, but no commissions on the blockchain forever. A little bit of a tangent. Don't want to go too far off on that. But April 28th in LA at El Cid, if you're listening to this episode in or over the next 16 days, I can do math, maybe 15. Um, Speaking on just circling back to some of the things we talked about earlier, I had mentioned the record label that you are a part of, Syryn Records. What is Syryn Records?
Yes. So that's so funny. I was like, I'm not part of a record label, but I'm like, everyone, I'm unsigned. I'm a DIY artist. But listen, let's talk about this. Siren Records is an amazing, amazing nonprofit record label that focuses on uplifting young women, girls, and trans or non-binary folks in the industry as music professionals. So it's sort of two pronged in that we actually operate as a record label. We have artist friendly agreements and we sign young women and gender expansive folks to the label. And then we also, the entire label is filled with interns. So they're ages 14 to 22. They're young high school and college aged girls and gender expansive folks that work in all the different departments. So we have a publicity department, a marketing department, art, and A&R department. And so my job is basically I'm the program lead mentor. I'm their person. I help run and what's the word I want to say? What is it when you sort of usher? not usher, facilitate. I facilitate all of the department meetings, and I'm the go person. I help them get tasks and stay on board and just kind of mentor young professionals, which is something I love. I used to teach college classes. I love working with adolescents and young adults so much. Um, I yeah, and so I'm part of that. It's run through Girls Rock Santa Barbara. So that's an organization that I really love and relate to and have worked with for since I started doing music. So it's really important to me to be able to, do something that gives me, an even broader sense of purpose. And you'll understand when you hear my seed phrase.
Ooh, okay. The preview already prepped with the seed phrase. I love it. You know, Wim, this has been an incredible conversation. I do have to ask you the two questions, but there were okay, I won't ask them all. I won't hold it too much longer. But I do have something that's very unrelated to any of this. Inline skating. Can you skate backwards?
I think I accidentally did yesterday. I'm telling
So,
you.
oh no,
No,
no, what's
I'm
up? What's
sorry,
up?
go
What's
ahead.
up? No,
I was
you're
just
good.
gonna tell you that was the first time I put on skates since I was like young. And I have to tell you, I fell in love with inline skating because when I was young, like I really like if I wasn't good at it, I did not like it. And I don't know why, but I like really killed it on inline skates. And I like when I was like in third grade or fourth grade, like we went to the skating ring and I like won an inline skating competition. And so I've been feeling kind of down lately and I like knew that I needed to do something. People are always like inner child work, and what does that actually even look like? And so like a few months ago I bought myself crayons and like a coloring book, and this month I had some points, so I bought myself inline skates and only busted my ass twice yesterday. So that was good.
See, I saw that and it was crazy because that's exactly what it made me feel. Was like, damn, I have not skated in years, and I am going to the store post this episode to go skate. It is a beautiful day here. But see, I'm more of a roller skater, which I don't know. I don't know if like there's a stigma behind that, but the inlines, it feels it's a little too risky for me. I like having all four in my. Is that like training wheels? Like I don't know. I don't know the skating reputation rules or anything like that. I also know that it's my favorite freaking TikToks recently. Is like the people who are
Hmm.
smoothly just skating in and out. And I imagined I was listening to your record and then imagining you inline skate in like the version of one of those TikToks. So at least in my head, you were one of the illest skaters that would have go viral from it.
I appreciate that. I have to tell you, back in the day, like when we were younger, it was like all about like inline skates were the cool ones. And then rollerblades were like, or not rollerblades, sorry, like what the skates, just
I
regular
call them roller
skates.
skates. I don't know if there's a like
Roller
even with that. Like I was like, is that the right thing? I don't know. It's the one with
right.
four wheels in the.
Yes,
It's like a car. There we go. That's the best I
right.
got.
So those ones were lame and inline skates were cool. And now it's the opposite, I think. So I don't know. Roller skates. You gotta come roll with me and Jazzy.
So I just Googled it. Roller skates are at least the things that we're talking about show up when I type in roller skates. So
Okay, good.
quad skates, quad roller skates. Anyway,
Quads.
bit of a tangent. Um, Before I let you go, again, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you for sharing your stories, some of your origin, talking about the work that you are doing in the space and the art that you have on the horizon. Every guest on the show, I ask two questions. My very first question is going to be, Wim, what is your seed phrase? And the reason that I ask that is because here at Money Trees, we are repurposing the term seed phrase. Yes, normally it's your account recovery key, but it's just not a term to me that screams security. So here, your seed phrase is going to be a quote, a saying, a lyric, a motto, a slogan. But I don't really even need to continue the spiel because you already know what your seed phrase is. So you can go ahead and share it whenever you are ready.
Thank you so much. Also, remind me to tell you something about money trees at the end of this, okay?
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. My seed phrase is the same seed phrase that I have had for basically all of my adolescence to now. And it's not anything incredibly unique, but it's we rise by lifting others. And I think that's incredibly important to who I am. It's incredibly important for the impact I want to leave on the world. And it's completely tried and true because every time I help someone else, I help myself.
I love it. For a moment, I thought it was going to be "What am I, chopped liver?" I believe that the one that you have went with is even more impactful. My second question is going to be, what are we going to list this one of one Money Trees number 46 note for?
Oh gosh. You know, my last two, so my first piece I listed for 609 because that's like one of the most, this number has followed me around my entire life. Um, and I listed my last one for point 0.5, but I think there's another number that's really important to me. And I think also it would be nice to have a piece that maybe an artist can, buy in on now, and then the price of it's going to grow, and then they're going to be able to maybe they want to keep it or maybe they flip it. Like, let's give something to grow. Let's plant a seed here. And so the number that's really important to me that I think would be cool to list it at is well, the number is 137. And basically, it's sort of your angel saying to you, congratulations. Um, it's kind of those three numbers together apparently mean congratulations. You're doing well on your path. Keep moving. So I feel like list it for point one or 0.137.
Boom, that's perfect. And I love that. Congratulations. I've never even thought about having like a saying kind of embedded in the price. You game changer. Game changer. It's a um, also the chopped liver was, I don't know if it's really an inside joke, but just one of your early tweets that I thought was hilarious because it's a quote that I use a lot with my little cousins.
Oh my
Because my
gosh.
my grandmother used to, like, whenever we would act up, would serve us liver and rice for dinner, and it was always just like, I see why people refer to chopped liver the way they do.
Listen, you can legitimately like food torture. You can torture people with bad food. Like, I appreciate food so much. I used to write a food blog. I love food, and like I know most people relate to that sentiment. But anyways, um,
Oh wait, whoa, whoa, food blog. Okay, okay. See
yeah,
now, obviously
I've
my
done a lot of
homeworks wasn't
things.
homeworked enough.
No,
Tell me
you're
your
good. You're
favorite
good.
meal.
Oh, I have to tell you, I'm sorry, Boom. I just had my favorite meal the other, like, okay, so my partner is from London. We met doing the record, but they're from Italy and they're from Bologna. And so I had no idea that, like, I just didn't think of it that Bolognese was from a place and it's from Bologna. And they call it ragu there. But anyways, my partner's been like working on this recipe forever and made it for me the other day while they were in town. They were in town for like a week. And I have to tell you, I made a tweet about it. Like, if I'm telling Twitter about it, it's real. Like, the post, like, this food ruined all pasta for me. It was so good. For the past week, all I've been able to say is like, I miss your pasta. Like, of course I miss my partner, but that pasta was crazy. Anyways, I could just talk about that pasta for hours.
Yeah, I love hearing people say bolognese because the first time, and I don't even know if I'm saying it correctly again, but literally every time I saw the word, I would be afraid to order it at Italian restaurants because I'm like, there's no way it's bolognese. And I'm gonna
But
sound
like,
so
remix.
uncultured when I say this.
No, that's
So
the remix.
oh man, Wim, this has been again an amazing conversation. I cannot wait to clip and share. I am excited to see what you do with your EP and for the show. I
Let
might
me
be in LA at the. Oh no, what's up?
let me tell you something.
Tell me.
I have to tell you. Okay, so you know Money Trees is a Kendrick Lamar song.
It's the perfect place for shade. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So Money Trees is a Kendrick Lamar song, and the sample that's playing in the background is actually reversed of this Beach House song, which is one of my favorite Beach House songs. And actually, I'm really inspired by Beach House. A lot of the record has a similar kind of hazy, otherworldly vibe that's very much inspired by Beach House. So I just thought that was kind of interesting and connected us in a weird way.
That is an incredible. So I love like whosampled.com, where you can look and see what records were used in some of your favorite records. Because I try to, like, as a producer, you start to understand how everything stems from something else that came before it. And I absolutely fucking love that. And now I want to go listen to the original and hear that sample.
Yes,
And
Silver
there's
Soul.
little, when you said that, okay, boom, Beach House, Silver Soul, that's it.
Yes.
My random fun sample fact that I just learned 2 days ago when I was watching Inception, a movie that I've seen maybe 15 times, that the song that they play when they do it for the kick, I don't think this is a spoiler, the movie's been out for a while, but the song that they play, that's the cue that the kick is about to happen, it's actually slowed down in the other dreams. And when you hear like this weird humming noise, it's that song slowed down. So it's moving at the same speed it would be because, you know, as you go the dream layers, it's
Oh,
slower. And that shit blew my mind, that attention to detail. Because I remember
man.
that noise being such like a eerie kind of sound. And to know it's literally just that first sample slowed down was super ill. So I don't know if you like that movie or not, but that's my
That's one of
fun
my
fact.
favorite movies. Also, that score is just ridiculous.
Nolan does great things with sound. I don't know what happened with Tenet. Okay, again, we're gonna tangent. I don't want to do that, but I would love for you to also share your top three favorite movies before you go.
Oh my gosh, how are you gonna do that?
You know, just a little tough question before we bounce.
Oh my gosh, and now I gotta like, okay. Um, all right, like my favorite favorites. My feel good favorite is Chef. Again, I love food. Um, movie that made my heart open the most and like I just thought was so beautiful was Moonlight. And then um the third one's always really hard, isn't it? Ooh, can I get like a limited series, please? For my
Yes,
last
yes,
one.
yes.
I really loved Normal People, so much so that I've watched it 4 times all the way through and bought the book and read it. Um, so yeah.
See, we got food recommendations, film recommendations, and a breakdown on your artistic vision. This has been fire. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you pulling me on and chatting with me. I've had so much fun, and your voice is just, what mic are you using right now?
I am using a Shure Beta 58A. I think it's like
Mm,
130 bucks on Amazon. Great,
mhm.
simple. Don't even have my pop filter right now because I'm in Florida, and it's doing the job. So I'm not
All
mad at
right.
it.
We love to hear it. It sounds so good.
Wim, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, your week. I look forward to seeing the show that you put together turn out amazing and many more successes for you in your journey in this new Web3 space.
Thank you so much. And same to you. You're killing it.
Thank you. And yeah, we will talk later. I really need to go listen to that Beach House song right now.
All
I'm
right.
actually
All
gonna
right.
listen to it when I go skating. Cool, I'm done. No more tangents. We're out of here. Peace out,
Bye.
everybody.
Later.